The movie starts in Sao Paulo, Brazil, in 1997, where we see Mark fight and win his first bout. He goes on to win all the fights one by one, finally claiming the Ultimate Fighting Championship title as well. Mark also has a coach whose name is Coleman. Phoenix, Arizona, 1999. Mark also has a girlfriend named Dawn, and she lives with him in his house. Mark then arrives in Japan for the Pride Fighting Championships. Then he meets the founders of the Pride Fighting Championships and signs a deal with them. During the fight, the opponent cheats and hits Mark in the head with a knee, which is completely illegal, and Mark loses the fight. Mark tells the founders of the Pride Fighting Championships that this is cheating. "I have not lost. My opponent hit me in the head with a knee, which is completely illegal." A little later, the founders of the Pride Fighting Championships come to Mark and tell him, "You are right. We are declaring this match a no contest." Mark is not happy with this because he wanted a result, not a no contest. Mark returns to America and is still angry about that match, due to which arguments happen between him and Dawn, and he also causes vandalism, breaks things. Dawn then hugs Mark and calms his anger. The next day, Dawn calls Coleman and tells him that Mark has overdosed and he is unconscious, and I cannot even move him. Later, Coleman comes to the hospital and meets Dawn and reassures her that nothing will happen to Mark. After Mark regains consciousness, Coleman meets him and says, "I am your friend. I want what's best for you. You need to get rid of your painkillers and drinking addiction." At that moment, Mark starts crying. So, Coleman hugs him. Mark agrees with Coleman and is ready to quit painkillers and the addiction permanently. When Mark returns home safe and sound, he collects all the painkillers and throws them into the dustbin. During rehabilitation, Mark and Dawn grow very close to each other. They frequently go out together and have a lot of fun. On the other side, Coleman makes a return to wrestling so that he can cover his household expenses because Mark is not fighting anymore. One day, Mark decides to return to wrestling, but Dawn does not approve of this and becomes angry with him. Mark goes to the Pride Fighting Championships press conference, and there are other fighters there as well, and Coleman is also there because he has also taken part. Mark apologizes to the Japanese fans at the press conference, and he tells them that he is still just as fast and agile. Hollywood, California, 2000. Mark meets Bass and joins his camp, and he works very hard and brings his body back into shape. Opening round Pride 2000 Grand Prix. Coleman fights his first fight in the Pride Fighting Championships and wins. Mark also wins his first fight in the Pride Fighting Championships. Dawn comes to the camp to meet Mark. Bass is not happy seeing Mark and Dawn together because he feels that Dawn will make him weak and shift his focus. Bass advises Mark not to take Dawn to Tokyo, explaining that her presence would be a distraction and prevent him from focusing on his game. Mark agrees to this suggestion. At night, Mark tells Dawn that he will not take her to Japan, explaining that the tournament is very important to him and he wants to keep his full focus on his game. Dawn still asks Mark to take her along, promising to stay with him and look after him, but Mark still refuses. Dawn then gets angry and tells Mark, "I love you, and I have always taken care of you, but you don't care about me at all." A fight then breaks out between the two, and Mark breaks up with Dawn and asks her to leave. At that moment, Dawn, enraged, picks up a gun and is about to shoot herself, but Mark pushes her, causing the gun to fall from her hand. Dawn then goes to the bathroom to commit suicide. Mark also comes inside the bathroom and grabs her and stops her from committing suicide. Mark then calls the police, and the police take Dawn. Final round Pride 2000 Grand Prix. Mark fights his final fight. Initially, he fights very well, but then he starts experiencing hallucinations of Dawn. He loses focus and stops fighting his opponent, who takes advantage of the situation, beating Mark badly and ultimately defeating him. Mark is then brought to the hospital. Coleman meets Mark in the hospital. Mark tells Coleman to definitely win his last fight. Coleman fights his last fight in the Pride Fighting Championships and he wins and becomes the champion of the Pride Fighting Championships. On the other side, Mark, who goes to the bathroom, takes a bath and smiles. Scottsdale, Arizona, 2025. Now the scene comes to the present where we see the real Mark who is in the supermarket. Then we are told through text that Mark and Dawn reunited after his loss and got married in Las Vegas 10 days later. Mark retired from fighting in 2009. Kerr and Coleman were some of the earliest pioneers of the sport. Today's star fighters can earn millions and everyone knows their names. His name is Mark Kerr, and the movie ends here.